Hello, and welcome to the season premiere of Coach's Corner, Girls Basketball Edition. I'm Jake Lancer with Danny Lynch for HWTV, and today we're here with Melissa Hearlihy, head coach of the girls varsity basketball team. Coming off a successful season, the Wolverines are in preseason play right now and are getting ready for a rebuilding season after losing multiple team leaders.
Before we get into the details of your players, can you tell us a little background information about yourself, how long you've been coaching at Harvard-Westlake, and where else you've coached?
Sure, I can. First, I just want to say thank you. This is an incredible opportunity. I've been here it's my 22nd year, and this is the first opportunity I've had to do something this special, so thank you for having me. I was at UCLA the first year when I started coaching as a graduate assistant, and then decided that the collegiate level wasn't for me because it was more about wins and losses, and I'm more about developing young women. So I then went to Hearlihy High School while I was working on my master's and was an assistant coach. The coach left, and then I was able to take over the program at 22 years old. So I was really young to be a head coach, but really fun, and I felt a great opportunity, so I was there for 15 years. I then decided that Harvard-Westlake was a great opportunity for me, and as they came to me and asked me if I would be interested in coming over, I did a little bit of research. They were in our league, so they were a big rival like a UCLA, USC. And we'd had some big rival games, as a matter of fact. But I realized what an opportunity that was going to be for me to grow and also for my sons to have an opportunity to go to an amazing school, as you guys know. So I've been here for 22 years, had some amazing kids in my program. As I mentioned before, I'm about developing young women, so it hasn't just been about wins and losses, but I've had a really great career here because I've had some incredible kids.
And how do you think this year's team differs from last year as so many seniors have graduated?
Graduated a lot of seniors, graduated a lot of talented kids. As we know, Kiki Arioffen is at Stanford, was our first McDonald's All-American. So this year is different in a sense that I have kids that are working hard and care and know what Harvard-Westlake stands for, but have zero experience. My point guard is the only one back from the starting group, and the rest of the kids have not hardly had any experience. And then I have 3 freshmen that have zero experience, of course. But what I love about Harvard-Westlake always is excellence is always expected. So these kids understand getting here. It's just finding a way to make that happen. And so that's what we're doing right now. We're struggling a little bit, but that's part of the process and that's part of growing up.
Coach, you mentioned Kiki and everything that she did for the program. Obviously, no one can replicate that and replace what she did. But with Amelia Scharf stepping into her position on the floor at center, how can she sort of replicate that success that Kiki had?
I don't think she can. I think and I've always thought this, and I would say this to any young person I spoke to, just be the best you can be. Don't try to be somebody else. So Amelia's finding that out. She's finding ways to get the ball. She's become more athletic. We all know she's grown a ton since middle school and had to learn how to use that body. And I would say with every game, I feel like she's getting better and she's trying, and she's a great leader. She's a very vocal kid. So replacing Kiki is not going to happen, but just being a vital part of what we're trying to do is where she's going to get.
Who do you think has stepped up into a leadership role, and how do they affect the culture of your team?
It's Amelia right now, but it's been Amelia in the background. We all know Amelia, and she's a great kid, but she's a very strong person. So she understands what I need and what I want and is able to direct the kids. She's very organized. So, as an athlete, you know that on game days, there's certain things that need to be taken care of. She's always on top of that. And any corrections that need to be made and any questions that they have, she always communicates really well with me. And I find that really important in a captain, and Amelia does that well.
One unsung hero of this team, Jamie Yu, was only a freshman on last year's team, but with a year of experience under her belt and an even larger role this year, how has she progressed over the offseason, and what do you hope to see from her this year?
With Jamie, if you've seen her play, I've probably coached 1,100 kids in my career, and she's the fastest kid I've ever coached by far. She only has one speed, though, and that's fast. So that's great. And then in some instances, we're trying to figure out how to slow her down. Last year, her only job or role was to get Kiki the ball or to get the scorers the ball. Now she needs to become a scorer. And actually, she spent most of the fall scoring, stealing the ball and then scoring as opposed to getting it into our offense. So that's something that she's trying to evolve and make us better at. But the issues right now for us are that we have young kids on that side trying to get better too. So it makes Jamie's job a little bit hard. But the one thing about Jamie is she's just an engine. She just goes and she goes and she goes, and she's very quiet about it. But I feel very comfortable with her at the point guard that she can guard anybody that we're going to play against.
We all know that this team isn't the same as last year and that you're searching for some young talent. And although only a freshman, Bella Spencer has sort of emerged as a potential star that could be vital to the success of this team. What do you see in her that makes you think that she's capable of leading this team, not just this year, but for the rest of her high school career?
She has that it factor. Kiki had that in her own way, but Bella is watched enough NBA basketball and played with the guys and done a great job with that just in our game the other day, you could see some of the things that she's done that's just different from what girls typically do. I think she needs to play more basketball and team basketball. And our sport, club sports, are a really important part until they get to high school, and then it becomes important in a different way. But it's a very different game. So transitioning from playing club to playing high school is going from a kind of a free flow system to a system where they have to be able to know what to do and have plays. And so it's a little bit different for all of my kids. I would say for Bella, that's probably something that's going to be a challenge a little bit for her, but you got to be careful when you have a thoroughbred like that from a skill set that you don't try to rein them in too much. So I have to figure out how to get her in that system and feel comfortable, but also not stop her from doing the creative things that she likes to do. Because basketball is fun to watch, and it's fun to watch the men because they can dunk and they can do a lot of really cool things. So it's entertainment. Bella brings that entertainment factor to us. And so we want to keep that because it makes it fun. It's going to make people want to come to the games. Plus, it just makes us better. She's unpredictable.
How do you think coming off a COVID year affects your team?
I had a conversation yesterday with Bella about this. I think some players, depending on how the family handled the situation, it affected them differently. My older senior kids, we played as a club, so we were out playing all through COVID in the fall. We couldn't come to campus, so they were at home at school, and then we just didn't practice at school. We stayed and practiced in somebody's backyard, and we were able to go play. So for those kids, I didn't notice much of it, but the younger kids, it definitely has affected them. And I'm only seeing it now, and I can't imagine in school and the different areas that you guys are in how you are affected by being closed up for so long and then trying to get out and take care of yourselves, right? That's what growing up is about. And when you've been kind of put in one position and had to do everything in one position, and then all of a sudden you need to go out and do different things, it's a little bit hard, and it's probably a little bit scary, even though it's not scary. So I am seeing it with the young kids 100% when I'm trying to get them to go and to get the energy. And it's like, well, I've sat in a chair for a year. I don't know how to get that energy. And the funny thing about that is I thought it was just my own insight, but we went to a tournament this last weekend, and I am watching every coach saying the same things. So it is definitely across the board. It's not just Harvard-Westlake. So it's going to take some time, I think, where kids are comfortable and they can get out and feel like they really are themselves again.
Coming off that year, what's your biggest focus coming into this season now in preseason play?
Fundamentals, getting my system in because I have so many new kids. Even though I have, 4 kids from last year's team, they didn't play. I have 4 new kids. I now have a volleyball kid in Sayu Hernandez who's transferred in from the volleyball team, state championship team, by the way. That is going to really help us. So it's just a matter of them getting used to me and me getting used to them and us being able to coordinate what we're trying to do this year.
How have you adapted your team to this new style of play? As you just said, there's many players who have come in.
Well, believe it or not, it's more me needing to adapt. So it's funny you asked me this question because the last couple nights I get up at 2 a.m. and have a conversation with myself. And I'm thinking, what can I do to be better and to make them better? And some of that is going to be me changing my ways. Starting at 22 years old, and basically all of the coaches were doing the same thing, running sets, running screens. And now things are changing with club basketball because there's less teaching and more playing. The girls are a little bit more skilled, and so it's more of a free flow type situation. So I spend the first 2 years trying to get these kids to understand how to run sets. And I tend to have conversations with myself in the middle of the night when I can't sleep and I'm trying to figure out how to get better. And this is going to be one of those years. So what I am learning and starting to adjust to is that I need to change my ways a little bit and become more in tune with the style of play that's more current. And so we are getting rid of some of our sets yesterday, as a matter of fact, and trying to create more ways to free flow where these kids are comfortable. And I will say the one thing about that is there's less thinking on the floor. And so it makes it much easier.
You're talking about all these changes being made, obviously coming off a season where you were undefeated in league play. What's the X factor in this year trying to get back to that sort of level of success?
Well, in my world, the X factor is always defense. because you're not always going to be able to put the ball in the hole, even if you're running your plays perfect. So defense is something that we need to really concentrate on, and we ebb and flow. We have a great defensive game, and then we have a defensive game where we're all over the place. I will say one thing that's contributing to that is I've only had 8 girls. I'll have 9 now when Sayu's cleared on Monday. So we can't really practice a real practice. So I front-loaded our schedule. So we played 4 games last week. We're going to play 4 games this week, and we're going to play 4 games next week. So there's not a lot of time to practice to get better, but I felt like we were going to get better by playing against other people. But you need time to correct too, right? So we're going to have to give up a little to gain a little. So we'll see where we are. When we get to that last week of school, I'm hoping we're going to be in shape. We're going to have had some great experiences and some things to talk about. We'll make our corrections at that point.
Coach, with the addition of some new assistant coaches this season, how does that sort of affect the leadership of this team?
Very differently. I have had some great assistants in the past. My assistant retired last year that played for me at Alamany, my first point guard ever, and she worked with me for 10 years and now is actually at the middle school. And this year I decided to go the young route. So I hired Justine Barraza, who played for me with the Twins and graduated in 2017 and went on to play at McAllister, and also Melissa Zozelenko. So I have a 22-year-old and an 18-year-old assistant. So we laugh in the office that I have the youngest staff available, but what they bring to the table, what I was looking for was that connection with the younger kids. And also knowing me, knowing them, sounds like that song, they were going to be able to relate a little bit better for me, and I needed that. And also, as Jim Burns and I were just discussing, the whole technology and Instagram and all of the things that you guys are used to are just things that I'm not necessarily as involved in as I need to be. So they were going to be able to bring that to the table, and the kids are loving it. They love having the young kids. You would think a player that just graduated coming back. The temperament of the team I have right now, they're very receptive to Melissa, so I love that. And Justine is probably one of the hardest workers I've ever had, so she brings that to the table. And what I love is they feel comfortable actually questioning some of the things I'm doing, which is what I wanted to get them to. And so they're in the learning process too. And as teachers, that's the one thing I would hope in education that is the thing that you value the most, is that you're always helping and educating kids.
And what do you consider a successful season for this team?
That my team is better than they were when we started. I'm not about wins and losses. Those will take care of themselves. I'm about that. I'm about watching young girls grow. I'm about them being able to work together, because in a world that we live in, girls still have to go into the world, in a man's world, in my opinion. I say that all the time. I say it to the parents, so I can say it now. I think there's just a lot of things that they are going to look to do where they're still going to need that confidence. So I hope that my team gives them confidence to do what they want to do. I hope it gives them the organizational skills. I hope it gives them the people skills. And I hope also that they have fun doing it. I want kids to have fun. For me, sometimes the struggle is what they think is fun and what I think is fun. Competing is fun for me. So if you and I are going to sit down and play, I don't even know if you know what jacks are, but if we're going to sit down and play jacks, I want to beat you. So to me, that's fun. So that's the transition I'm trying to make for them, is to understand competition, and that's where the workplace will be fun too, right?
We talked about a couple different players on your team. I guess my last question would be, what's one player that we haven't mentioned that we should look out for this season?
I think there's a couple. I think Vita is a player that goes unnoticed because she does all the little things. She might have a game where she has 10 or 12, but she might have a game where she has none. But she's going to be the one that's going to back cut. She's going to make great passes. She's going to do all the little things, and she's going to do it quietly. I think, secondly, the other player probably that we need to mention is Deanna Thompson is a freshman, so we're looking for her to step into the backup point guard role, the number 2 role. She's done a great job. Again, she's a club kid trying to figure it out. And then Jordan Call. Jordan Call's a great shooter, so when she gets hot, it makes us so much better. And she's a great kid. She smiles. She loves the game, so you always want to see Jordan because she's got a happy face. Love that kid.
Thank you for joining us on the first Coach's Corners with Coach Hearlihy. Good luck to you guys. I'm Danny Lynch with Jake Lancer. We will see you next time on Coach's Corners. Enjoy the game.